So, anyways, we're coming back from our conversation from earlier today. Earlier today, we were talking about Sebastian Rogers, the 15-year-old boy that disappeared from Hendersonville, Tennessee. There is, a sighting of him. We've learned from the news that there is no confirmed sighting, so this has not been a confirmed sighting for Sebastian. That news report came out yesterday. And so, as disheartening as it is, that's what's being said. Now, we are also hearing on the back channels that Seth is on his way to North Carolina. Hopefully, again, this is what's being corroborated from law enforcement, that there is no credible sightings of this boy. But maybe this can be the first credible sighting. Who knows? I don't know where Seth is. I don't know where law enforcement is, but it's highly, in my opinion, unless there has been a law enforcement body that has made contact with this family or has corroborated this information, I don't see where TBI is going to be flying out there without some corroboration from the local law enforcement. Just my personal opinion about that. It's nice to see everybody. It's nice to see you. Seth said last night on T-Rev, he was on his way back from North Carolina. Yeah, okay, so he's on his way back. Then that's probably where they were getting the information from, because I was coming under heavy fire on YouTube that the information was inaccurate or incorrect. And I'm like, well, I read it from the newspaper. So, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't sound like this is going to turn out to be Sebastian, unfortunately. And I know it upsets a lot of people. I had people saying they were going to unsub for me for running the story. And it's like, we run stories. We find information, we run it. We are media as well, I mean, I know people look at me as an activist, but we report the news and we report breaking news as well. So there is that. But that's not really the prime reason why I decided to go ahead and do another live this soon into the day. It's because, this whole thing with CPS has really been bothering me. I've been very bothered by the whole CPS discussion, learning that this is not the first time CPS has been involved in this family that from all of our appearances seemed to be, prior to this incident, seemed to be normal, seemed to be a family that we would all aspire to be. But it appears that their house of cards have folded in on them. And we're just trying to figure out how all this happened and what truly did happen. And then, of course, when Chris Proudfoot was on the interview with Smiley's World, she asked him point blank, do you have CPS? Have you ever had CPS involved in this case? And he said, yes, we have. And he talked about this one singular incident where a belt was used. He reported it to his teacher. He was just being punished. He was an embarrassed 15-year-old boy. The CPS worker told him that he cannot be making false reports or he'll be in trouble. And then we find out that this belt incident happened years before, that this was a completely separate incident. And we're finding out that it according to Christopher, he was just recently on the Web Sleuth and wanted to tell them about themselves and make sure he got stuff crystal clear. So we want to make sure that we're crystal clear here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. And according to him, he said out of his own mouth, this was something different, and that this was something that Sebastian told his teacher that elicited this response for the teacher to actually call into the Department of Children and Family Services and make a report. So this is a completely separate incident. So I was just on my YouTube channel talking about what the possibilities of this call was in. And some people said, like drugs, substances, maybe SA, something along those lines. And I'm unsure. So I'm like, what would trigger? What would make a teacher, call this in? So I've been doing a lot of, research into the matter, because that's just, what I do when I have a question. I'm curious about it. I'm going to look into it and find out what I can find out about it. So that's what I did. I went to Google and I'm like, what happens? What goes on in Tennessee? What triggers all of this information? What would cause a teacher to pick up the phone and call the Department of Children and Family Services. It's got to be more than a disgruntled student, right? I mean, how many of your children have gone to school pissed off at you, hating your guts, and you didn't get a knock at the door from CPS? You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure they told everybody how horrible of a parent you were. So again, I think it goes a little further than just them having a disagreement is what I'm trying to, imply here. If alleged abuse occurred at some place other than the home, the site will be visited and assessed as well. If the CPS investigator determines that a medical expertise is necessary to assess medical condition, obviously they'll get a forensic doctor. No big deal. That sounds like standard stuff. So I looked at it further. So what actually triggers these calls? What actually would warrant or rise to the level of, whether or not a call is provided to the department and what calls are investigated by the department? So according to everything I'm reading, there are two main ways to get CPS to your home. Now, the people in my audience, I know, and I want to tell you guys, there's some beautiful souls that responded back to me when I was asking about your personal experience with the Department of Children and Family Services in Tennessee, as well as a few people that have worked for a department has reached out to me, letting me know that they're happy to help with any general questions that I may have about processes. So I just want to, I'm not ready there yet. I do have them, and I have you guys in a folder, and I will be reaching out to you in the next week or so. So thank you for that. But one of the things that I noticed from just my research is that there are two main ways to get the department to visit your home, and that's abuse and neglect. Those seem to be the one things that trigger this visit, or wanting them to come and check and make sure that everything is good and everything is kosher. Here's some of the environmental conditions that would constitute neglect in Tennessee, and it's a lack of clean water. There's human stuff and animal stuff places it shouldn't be. It should be in a toilet, not around the house. Dirty. I don't think any of these environmental conditions rise to that level. That house is clean as a whistle. I don't think that there's any environmental neglect going on inside that home that would trigger a call or a visit from the Department of Children and Family Services. And so I started looking into, different types of neglects that could possibly trigger this call to the Department of Children and Family Services. And as you see, we have physical neglect, where the child's basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, are not being met. We also have educational neglect. A parent doesn't ensure that their child is getting the proper education, emotional neglect, and medical neglect. I don't think any of these negligent things really apply in this situation. And so if Tennessee is telling us that these are our four basic areas of negligence, we would have to assume, at least the way my brain thinks, I personally assume that it must be abuse related. So it doesn't appear that it would be. Now, there is this emotional neglect, but I don't know. That's going to be a hard one to prove. And I don't know if he went in there and said his stepdad was mean to him, if the teacher would really trigger a call into the Department of Children and Family Services. To me, that seems a little too petty. I think teachers are well versed in this type of area, especially ones for the medically needy students. And I think that it would have to have a certain level for it to trigger something. I don't see a teacher, if he said that he was being mean to you, not sitting down and kind of inquiring what is truly going on. We've never heard Sebastian or his mom or his dad throughout this whole time say that he's been known to lie. Out of all the nasty things that they said, from milk and how he's in people's personal space and all this other stuff, the one thing we haven't heard from anybody is that he's a compulsive liar or that he lies. The only person that said that he's untruthful is Chris, and it's only related to this particular situation. We haven't heard any situation where we've heard that he's lied about this, that, or the other. Unlike Chris, we've caught Chris in many lies. Many lies. Let's see what Chrissy has to say. Chrissy said something. Hold on, let me see what. I think Katie is involved in this. Oh, I think she is too. One of my mods, Pebbles, actually thinks she's the culprit and called Chris. And of course, I'm on the realm of I think Chris did this. And the reason why is because Chris is the one that had all the marks up and down his arms when he came back, 8 days later when he gave that interview. So that's what's leading me to believe he's more involved, but I do believe Katie's absolutely involved. I think she's been standing by her man and helping cover up whatever happened inside that home. But there is a piece of me that keeps wondering, because Chris was so angry with Sebastian and knew that his mother loved him so much, that I keep always wondering, because he is military trained, did he sneak in his own house? Did he do a military op with his brother or another family member? Or was Katie, after everything happened, did Katie help? I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there was like a rage factor in this for some reason. I don't know why. I feel like somebody was raging and something terrible had happened to him. So, oops, we go this one. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong one. There we go. So this is another situation. This is where I found, when a report has been received that a child is being abused or neglected, the department is mandated by Tennessee law to investigate the allegations. So no matter what, they are required by law to investigate the allegations. And of course, severe child abuse, it goes through, knowingly exposing a child to knowingly or to the knowing failure to protect a child from abuse or negligence that can cause serious bodily injury or death. And so I really think, I'm being, and then of course I went through the laws related to this, just looking at it. So, I did do a whole host of, research into this, and it does sound like it truly is negligence and or abuse. And we went through the 4 main categories of negligence, and it just doesn't seem like anything really bodes in that area that would trigger a call from the school. However, especially since they've called on the Proudfoots in the past, predominantly for the belt incident, it must have been something that Sebastian told them related to some type of abuse, if I had to provide my opinion about that. I truly believe that it was an abuse report. So now we have to question, what abuse did Sebastian claim literally a month before he disappeared? People are trying to say that doesn't matter. I say that matters a heck of a lot. We need to know that information, don't you think? Sunshine Homestead, well, when was this? That's definitely sketchy. YCP said no one will find him. That's what we heard. I think it was Seth's mom was caught on a hot mic and said that. But, Seth has come out and said that his mom has assumed a lot and has passed a few things off as truth. And he's come out and actually expressed that and explained that to us a couple times. So, we have to remember that this is his mother. She's also emotional. She's probably getting information such as us. Maybe she's not hearing it accurately, or she's looking into it more, or she's hearing something that's there that's not, or she's hearing it accurately and, people aren't wanting to let everybody know that the information is true, accurate, or I don't know. But she has made several statements, and I think that was the statement that she made on a hot mic was, I think his name was CJ on YouTube. So that's kind of where we're at with this, guys. I don't know. Hey, G Banana, it's nice to see you, Love Bug. I don't know what this, what was truly reported, but it doesn't sound like it was good. And it sounds like it was enough concern that it had his teachers concerned enough to pick up the phone. It doesn't sound like, it sounds like it was his teachers that called. So what could he have possibly told to his teachers to concern them so much to pick up that phone and call? Betty, that was about KO asking if anyone has a wood. Ooh. KO. You mean KP or KO? Who's KO, Christy? I don't know. I will always believe that AB started with Katie. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. Huh. Yeah. Can you please? Hold on. I'm trying to read. Likes possibly. I'm starting to get the feeling broken inside that the Proudfoots drink. I don't know how heavy they drink though, but it sounded like Chris he couldn't control his alcohol intake, at least on that show on Web Sleuths. It sounded like he was under the influence, personally speaking. I think he was essayed. I just thought it was really weird that that Chris is reaching out to Seth to take their son because of something that happened when he was 8 years old, so many years ago. Why now? And he's saying it's because he believes Sebastian's a perv and is going to harm or injure his daughter Faith when his daughter comes to visit. And that is his biggest concern, because he was AR'd already, and he feels like Sebastian is going to be a victim that turns into a perp. And so that's his biggest concern. So he has all these anger issues towards Sebastian. And can you imagine what lengths a father would go to if he honestly believed somebody was going to R his underage child? And if you don't know what R is, it's grape without the G. What would a father be willing to do to protect his child if he truly in his head believes that? I mean, and he said it out of his own mouth. So what do you do? It's rough. It's rough. I think what happened with Sebastian and CP's niece. CP's niece. I think something happened. Oh, okay. I see. Thanks, Jen. God bless you. I see what you're saying there. Like, because the cousin was there, maybe there was some type of bad interaction between the cousins. Somebody, one of my mods also believed, because Chris, when at first, like in the first interview that we saw, the green shirt interview, it was one that he did with a news reporter, like 8 days after Sebastian disappeared. And he said something about Sebastian being in, he doesn't know about personal space, and he's always in your personal space. And one of my mods kind of got, in conjunction with the perv comment, was wondering if maybe he was exhibiting some, behaviors that he didn't realize were wrong, or were doing them and they were really inappropriate behaviors, just because of his disability and stuff like that. Not like it's intentional. But anyways, I think that is definitely something that we could be concerned with. And, she even went to just as a little bit further and said she wondered if Katie had been drinking that night, and maybe Sebastian got into her personal space too much, and something happened where she went off and just couldn't handle it. But, again, these are all hypotheticals. We don't know really what happened inside that home. We don't know what happened to Sebastian. It's just, for me, it's very highly unlikely he did anything for himself, because he's never done anything for himself. They're having a hard time with him even cleaning his room. They're having a hard time with him making his own breakfast. I mean, he's got cognitive impairments. So it's like, if he did walk out of the house, then why is there no evidence of that? They've got a scent at that front door and going off the porch. But we know for a fact earlier that day he went to that front door and got off that porch. Remember, the lady across the street sat there and said, we assumed it was when they came back from BJ's to put away the snacks. The neighbor saw him, and it was recorded, and it was turned over to law enforcement, where he went to the mailbox, grabbed the mail, and he skipped up to the front door. He tried to get into the front door, i.e. his scent would have been on that front doorknob from that exact day that he went missing. He couldn't get in, so the video and the neighbor talks about him skipping down the porch and going into the garage. So that can explain that entire scent being right there, because he was right there, and we have corroborated that he was right there because a neighbor has come forward and told us that and has turned that information over to law enforcement. I'm just saying, we got problems. We got problems. So yeah, I guess anything could be possible. The niece, yeah, you know, like I said, one of my mods are kind of in the same thought, you know, just different people. So I think that the thought is there. The thought is there, and we are looking at that avenue. CP and KP know how to get away with it all. Well, they're sure, and you know what? That's the thing I was saying is, like, on that that interview with Web Sleuths, like it was the interview with the PIs, but Chris is monitoring everything. He's probably, God knows, he's probably watching me for all I know. It's kind of creepy, but apparently he's been watching all this social media, and so he was hearing them saying this stuff, and he couldn't handle it. He literally could not handle it and had to go up. And so he went up there to tell them about himself and tell them about themselves and how disgruntled they were. And the PI was sitting there and trying to be, I don't know, chill. But there was all this stuff where it was right then and there, I think, is when he made me feel that he really truly, that like all of the feelings we were having, all of the emotional attachments we were having with this case and stuff, and how we truly felt about Chris, but we really didn't have any corroboration. I feel like that particular interview really displayed a lot of what we believed Chris was and who Chris is. And I had a question here, and I ended up moving this thing, so I'm trying to find it. That's what I'm doing back here. But either way, he did talk about this personal space. My mod thinks that there is some type of S element type, you know, maybe behavior-wise, maybe inappropriate behavior toward another person. And so it is possible. All these things are possible, but still, at the end of the day, he wasn't really around anybody. They came back to an empty house. We know that they were at the restaurant at the Texas Roadhouse, and it didn't appear anybody else was with him except Katie and Sebastian. So what happened when they left and went home? We are told that they made it home about 6:40 in the evening. So what happened from 6:40 to 9 p.m. at night? We don't know, and they're not saying. Thank you, Jen, for everything. God bless you. Where's his pants found? I saw something about that. Yeah, Christy, there's another creator. Her name is Terry Lynn. She's on YouTube, and she's been going out there and still searching in the wood. God bless her for that, because everybody kind of pulled out of this case. And I'm stuck here. I'd be out in the woods right now, too. But my car's back at the mechanics. Pray to God it gets fixed. Good Lord, I think I'm going to need a new car after this. I don't know what the heck's going to go on. But she's still out there in the woods, and she's still looking, and during the search, she found some pants that mimicked or appeared to be similar in nature. I've got a photo up here. Hold on just a second. I do have a photo. Let me pull the photo up here. There we go. There you go. So Chris kind of described, let me turn this because every time I move my hand, you see my pink hat behind me. Chris kind of described white stripe, 90s white stripe pants. So this is 3 stripes, but he didn't really describe 3 stripes or how many stripes it was. He just described the white stripes. This was just for picture purposes. So this is what was found, and you can see the white striping up and down the legs. And this was kind of the description that Chris Proudfoot just so happened to provide that Sebastian was last seen in. So as you can imagine, this looks like relevant information that should be called in and at least tested, or have somebody look at it to see if these are the pants that are similar in nature to that of Sebastian's. They're definitely described properly. She took a photo. They're definitely in the description realm of what Chris Proudfoot told the whole world Sebastian was wearing. And there's a lot of debris on this. So, were these out there for a significant amount of time? It's possible that they were out there for a significant amount of time. But who makes who judges that? Right? Not me and not Terry Lynn. You know who needs to be the judge of that? Law enforcement. So you know what she did? She picked up the phone. She said, I found something that may or may not be here, right? You can't just walk past evidence, folks. If you think something is relevant, you have to call it in, even if it doesn't pan out. Because what if it did pan out and you just walk past evidence that was crucial in a case? You can't do it. It's a double-edged sword. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? This was enough in the description realm that I would have been very upset, and I think our audience would have been upset if she just walked past this without calling it in, right? It's jogging pants with the white stripe as described by Christopher Proudfoot. And they were laying in an area that is being searched. So yes, she called it in. I don't know where it's going to be. The lady, a police officer came out there with a bag, an evidence bag, and collected it. We don't know what's going to come of them. But God bless her for being out there. God bless her for keeping her eyes and ears peeled. And God bless her for calling in potential evidence in a missing boy's case. We don't want people fearful of calling tips and leads in. This new society where you don't call relevant tips and leads in is getting ridiculous. If you see something, you say something. I will be. One of these days. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep our fingers crossed. So that's really all I have for you guys this afternoon. Was just really about the Department of Children and Family Services. We do have another situation. Apparently there's a sister. Apparently her sister is in jail for doing some really unthinkable crimes to a 15-year-old girl. And she's behind bars right now. She does look a lot like Katie Proudfoot, doesn't she? She looks like her sister. So we're getting reports that her sister is locked up for SA of a 15-year-old girl. This family, when we're pulling back the layers of this onion, we got some really messed up individuals all in and around this case, folks. All in and around this case. It's a little bit terrifying. But I think the one thing that we have taken note from this whole entire little, research, this rabbit hole that I went down today related to the investigation and CPS and what triggers calls, it appears what triggers calls is simple: abuse and or neglect. So I don't think negligence is going to be relevant in this matter, because they have a great house, they have a great environment, he goes to school. Oh, thank you, Jen. He goes to school, he's well taken care for, he has food, he has clothes. So negligence is not why he was called in. The only way he had a report called in, or a teacher decided after speaking to him to report this to the Department of Children and Family Services against Christopher Proudfoot, is abuse charges or abuse allegations, in my opinion. So he had to tell his teacher that Chris physically did something to him. Thank you, Duke. God bless you. So I just want to let you guys know this is my findings. Now, could I be wrong? Could it be negligence? Could they have called negligence? I don't see the teacher believing that there's negligence in this family, especially as long as they've worked with Sebastian. They know the family. They know maybe a teacher has dropped him off at home or had to drop paperwork at home. They've probably seen that house. They probably know he's well taken care of. So I don't see where it's negligence. I don't see where a teacher would believe it was negligence, so much so that they would pick up the phone and call the Department of Children and Family Services. So the only thing I can assume at this point, and I am assuming, is that there was an abuse allegation raised against Chris Proudfoot yet again. So I don't know what you guys make of it, but there's the information I found. You may come to a different conclusion than I have come to, but that is my conclusion based upon the information that I have found. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you were able to get some new information or get your little gears thinking about this case. Start thinking outside the box. And of course, if you're in the Tennessee area and you have time to search and you want to be a part of this and you want to go out and do your part, look on the map, I-40 corridor, you know, between Hendersonville and Memphis. If you reside anywhere in there, pick a spot and go search. That's about as good as it's going to get, because everything needs to be searched. God bless you guys. Rock it out with your coffee beans out. And until next time, we'll see you soon.